lower arch. Is that a good idea to use the lower arch as a?
It's the best idea because we can make upper.
Oh.
Hold on a second.
We
My question
cannot.
is different.
We cannot.
Why is the lower
Expand
arch the
in.
arch guy?
We cannot
Guy arch?
expand in the. I don't know. In the.
Yeah, that we're gonna discuss that. But okay, we use the lower arch. Then we discuss why we use the lower arch. My question is different. Is, in your opinion, if you could choose, would you choose the lower arch?
No,
Why?
because we cannot modify the arms.
If you do surgery, what is your reference, your guide?
Lower.
Upper.
The first thing you do,
Incisor.
you consider the upper incisor. If you do a denture, full denture, what is your reference point?
Upper arch. Center incisor of upper arch.
So it's not nice that we have to use the lower arch. We are forced to use the lower arch because the static part, the static arch is the upper. And when, go ahead.
Excuse me. Why do we use the lower arch?
Because it's the one that we can modify the least. We cannot modify the lower arch. We know that it's very difficult to proclaim the incisor because we have two problems. Actually, we have three problems. One problem is periodontium. The second problem is long-term stability. The third problem, you don't know if you have a good incisor guidance. We cannot expand the intercanine dimension because we know that in the mean is coming back. We cannot distalize, or maybe we can distalize if we want, because that is not true that we cannot distalize. We can distalize. You put a mini screw, you distalize whatever you like. But the problem is, where the hell do you put the tooth? If there is a third molar, and there is the
Anatomical.
the ramus of the mandible, you know, it's not logical to distalize unless you lost some tooth. So you are forced because to use that, because generally would say that the lower arch is the iron arch. The upper arch is the plastic arch. The iron arch you cannot modify. The plastic arch you can modify. Okay? Now, let's go back. We want to use the lower arch because we are forced to use the lower arch, not because we want. It's your turn. Now,
No crowding.
you have to find out the crown. In order to find out the crown, you have to divide right, left. Okay? Do you see any crowding? You see space. So, how much space do you have? So, I don't know, you're. Check. I say probably 1, 2, 3 millimeters of space on the right side, right? Plus, what do you have there? Is space. Let's say that you have +5, right? On the right arch. And on the left? Five, yeah, 5, 4, 5, whatever you like. Now, the midline,
Why +5? Excuse me.
On the right.
5 because you have more or less 3 millimeters from here to there, and plus you calculate 2 millimeters of leeway
But
space.
canine will be bigger.
2 millimeters of leeway space, and then the other 3 millimeters? What is it?
There are spaces here.
But canine will be bigger.
What?
Canine will be bigger.
Yeah, okay. Now, I want for everybody to be sure of what we are saying. She said canine will be bigger, which is true. Usually canine is bigger, but usually the first premolar is smaller than the first decidus molar. Then the second decidus molar is bigger than the second premolar. So, you know, canine and first
In some gets
is
the
getting even, and then the only difference is gonna be here, okay? Go ahead.
It's better to consider the leeway space in crowding space or in space needed or available.
I usually I put in crowd. I usually do that. Hmm?
2 millimeters.
I
Or half
more or less is 2 millimeters. You can consider this, I would say 2 millimeters. Yeah.
So, don't you take 2 millimeters, the default?
Hmm?
It's not 2 default
No,
millimeters, no?
actually what we should do, and that is something that Gianelli demonstrated.
They can X-ray comparison.
You take this measure, take out of this measure, you take the E. From the E you take out the D and you take half millimeter. Usually the D is half millimeter bigger than the second premolar. That is quite known. So that is, you can,
The D, repeat this,
the D is half a millimeter bigger than the second premolar. So there are different ways of calculating the leeway. This is the way Gianelli was fine doing. You take this measure, you subtract this measure, and then you take half millimeter away. And more or less you get it there.
So we make E minus D and we have the E space.
E minus 0.5.
No, wait. E minus
D minus 0.5.
Oh, okay. I got it.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Can you demonstrate, please, because we don't have idea. Demonstrate with
It's,
the first deciduous, it's E. The second, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
vai Giovanni.
No, guarda lo scherzo.
Tocca fare io, professore.
Funziona meglio con quello che ha fatto Giovanni.
Di-
Giovanni sei eccezionale, ma ci sei sputato anche dentro. Sì, un pochino.
Ti vuoi a ecco,
Ma se no andiamo
Era lì l'incontro, l'ho trovato Paolo. Era una notizia. Faceva fare una lista di
Excuse me. Just a second. I mean, when you do a treatment plan for a patient still in mixed dentition, you always you always start a fixed bracketing or
No.
treatment. Because now I'm asking you because it's so strange for me to make some diagnosis.
No, okay. We don't put braces on the mixed dentition patients.
Okay, yes, that's why I.
But we have to know what we want to do. Now, in order to consider the E space, you go E minus D minus 0.5. If you go and check the measures of the mean mesiodistal measure of E of D's and lower 4, usually D is bigger than 0.5 in the mean, in men and women. If you want to check, there is a very nice book from Van der Linden with all the mean measure of all the teeth. So if you go there and you check there, you see that there is a difference between D of 0.5 millimeter. Okay?
Sorry. don't say about the second premolar.
So D minus 4 is like that.
Mauro,
Yeah.
E space, it's, what do we talk about E space?
E space is the space that is delivered when these three teeth, exfoliate, and the canine, first premolar and second premolar, take their place. There is a difference of mesiodistal dimension. This difference is in favor of the deciduous teeth. Okay? So the deciduous teeth are occupying more space than permanent teeth. So if we want, Gianelli was saying is the biggest, hugest space gain during all growth of the face for orthodontics. This is the biggest growth, the biggest space that you can get. Now, the problem is when you have the termolars. Because if you decide to use the E-space, you have to block the natural physiological mesialization of the first molar. Okay? So that means that you have somehow increasing crowding in the back. Okay? That is something that you should know. Okay? So you have to decide. I want to maintain 2 premolars and maybe have a problem with the third molar, or I decide to extract and might have no problem. I might have no problem with the third molar. It's up to you. Is this clear?
So it is the same of leeway space in
Yeah.
this case?
Yeah.
Okay, just not just
Okay.
the E, but okay.
How about book of Van der Linden?
Leeway space or E-space. Is a leeway. More correctly, is a leeway space. You know what is a leeway?
You don't want to know the title of the book of Van der Linden.
Dentition of the human. I forgot. I'll let you know. I'll let you know. Dentition of the human. I'm getting more. But you know, Van der Linden wrote 4 books about that, and you know, I think it's the second. It's clear. Leeway. You know why leeway? You know what is the leeway? For me, it's very important because I live on the sea. The leeway in Italian is lo spazio di scarroccio. How do you translate that in English is difficult. Is this? You know what to say that in English? It's leeway. So when you say, and you have a buoy, and you go, and you have to turn around, you don't do something like that because you don't have, you know, it's not a car. You do like, and this is the space of the leeway, the space that the boat gets after they boat. Didn't you know that? It's called a scarroccio in Italian. And you know why? It's because this first molar is moving little bit. When you know the E is going, the first molar is moving forward. Okay?
Moving?
Forward.
Forward. Okay.
Moving means, I'm sorry, not forward.
Yes, okay.
Okay? Now, it's clear for everybody. As you can see here, everything is electronic. Now,
Midline shifted
From
to the
Yeah.
to the right.
A question. In the upper arch, you
No, the upper arch leeway is the less.
Okay.
Otherwise, remember,
First class.
hold on a second, that is very important.
Lower six, or
In-
lower parts are bigger.
Hold on a second, hold on. Where is your reference point in mixed dentition to decide if a patient is class 1 or class
On the back of a fives.
2? Huh?
In the back of
Model, first model.
five.
The E.
Canaries?
The canary.
So in mixed dentition, you check the canine, not the molars. Because a end-to-end class 2 in the molars could be a class 1. Because there is the leeway on the lower arch is more than the upper arch, so when second molar, decidus molar is exfoliating, the first molar goes slide forward more than the upper molar. So what you have to check is the canine. The decidus canine in order to get the class. What is the class in the decidus dentition? In mixed dentition, sorry. Also decidus, but mixed dentition. Okay? Now, midline.
Shift it to the right on the floor.
Midline, you cannot see the midline here. I can tell you, the midline is not centered with the upper, but is centered with the face.
Okay, so it's.
So the midline, make sure that the midline, you check the midline on the face,
Yeah.
okay? So, how do you check the midline? For me, I'm gonna show you the way I do. Never ever check the midline from the front. Ever. Don't check the midline from the front. Why?
Because you cannot stay in the front.
No.
No?
There's a reason. Why you don't have to check? Anybody tells me why you don't have to check the midline from the front?
You cannot get right to the front and make patient.
I want you to do something. Each of you. Okay. Do me a favor. You get one couple, you make a couple, and you see each other from the front. You go with Gaia.
Trio.
Sì, vabbè, la mia mediana va. Cioè, neanche a non vederlo. I can suggest.
No, dai,
I can give you a tip if you want. Tip. I guess it's
Okay.
That's true.
Okay, fine. Fine. Oh, in, over. And you see each other? Okay. Now,
You too.
it's my question.
Yeah, I think. But just.
I say that you have to check the midline, not the eyes. Come on.
Quello che è fuoricino,
Che carini.
Okay. Okay. How many of you, in your opinion, has a deviation of the nose? Have you seen any deviation of the nose? Okay, now, please,
C'è quasi.
hold on a second.
Perfect.
Hold on a second. Now, please, do the same thing from the back. Do the same thing from the back.
No, sit. I don't think so. It's just fun. No, I think it's disrespectful.
Thank you.
Yes, it's different. You can see, I mean, it's easier to see. Yes.
Ma appoggiato, non sta appoggiare, sai.
Okay, enough. Enough.
No,
Enough. Enough.
Perché avrei dovuto...
Done.
Ludo, I like it.
Basta.
Ogni cosa di
Siete come bambini elementari.
Guarda, pazzesco.
Okay, now, have you seen something different on the two vision?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay, fine. You know why?
No, not in midline.
You know why?
It's easier to see. I'm just joking.
I tell you why. Because we all are asymmetric. Our brain is, you know, trained not to see the asymmetries. Because otherwise we would see all asymmetric people, and you cannot see all the asymmetric people. Now, if you change your vision, your brain is not set to see, and you see exactly what it is. So please, don't check midline from the front. Check the midline from the back, always. Because that is the best way of seeing. Your brain doesn't fool you. Because your brain is fooling you. Because everybody is asymmetric. Everybody. So check the midline from the back. With a completely different vision that you are used to. So, and the way I do, I check from the back, I check only the upper arch, the upper midline. Okay? Then it's over, because if the upper midline is centered, you can go in the front and you can see if the lower midline is centered to the upper. If it's not centered, the lower midline is deviated. If the upper midline is not centered, you just take how much there is not centered and you compare to the lower. Okay? So the only thing you need is to know where is the upper midline. Without doing anything strange like, you know, you go with the dental floss or something, you don't need that. Okay? Now, Inessa, still you. So the midline is centered, okay? So we have no request space, 0 and 0. The curve space, you cannot see it. Let's say that is -1, just because at least 1 millimeter, but maybe you don't need it.
How do you calculate?
Profile. What do we mean by profile? What do we mean by profile?
Do you want to procline or not? Lower incisor.
Hold on a second. What do we mean by profile?
Is it better to procline incisors or not? Keep them or...
Il rapporto tra il labi
It's
No,
E. Maybe.
Okay, the profile, usually the profile is this, right?
Yeah.
This is profile. But in this case, we don't mean these. In this case, profile for us is the position of the lower incisor. What do we want the lower incisor? And why? Why do we call profile the lower incisor? Because the lower incisor, if you finish in class 1, dictate the position of the upper incisor, which control the position of the lower lip, which control the position of the upper lip. So in other words, at the very end point, the position of the lower incisor dictates the position of the lips. So if you know where you put the lower incisors, you know where you put the lips. So the only thing we need in our art, in our scheme, is deciding where we're going to put the lower incisor in order to know where we're going to put the profile. This is something that is a little bit more difficult, and I'm sorry that, Ines, I put you in this situation.
It looks like
Because
we need
this is a growing patient.
Yeah, it's maybe functional plans.
This is a growing patient, okay? We can discuss functional plans later on. But I would not use a functional plans with this type of inclination of the lower incisor. But it's my personal opinion. Okay? Now, this patient is growing. How much is growing? A lot? Not too much? You know how to do you know this? Do you know how to do it?
By
you see the face,
Mhm.
and you see there is a big pogonium.
Mhm.
Then you go to the ceph, and you see that there is a huge symphysis. There is also a very good gonial angle.
Mhm.
When you have this type of patients, you expect a good mandibular growth.
Mhm.
So if you expect a good mandibular growth, you should allow this mandible to grow.
Mhm.
So what you want this incisor to go a little bit back and create some overjet in a way that the mandible can grow.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
This is not really
That's so
a
easy.
treatment plan
Mhm.
that the way we do when there is no more too much growth. But this is a female that is 9-year-old. So she's very close to get the peak,
Mhm.
okay? The pre-pubertal peak. So for me, this lady is growing,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say that I like the position of the teeth. Maybe I want this teeth a little bit back, okay? So profile, I would say maybe -3.
I have a question.
I don't understand.
No.
But if you
Let's say profile, forget it. Profile 0, then we discuss.
I don't understand if I have to check the inferior or the superior incisor in order to, or the nasolabial angle in order to decide if the profile I like or
The
not.
profile is the profile is this one. What we want is the nasolabial angle. You know that. The nasolabial angle is dictated on where you put the lower incisor.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is going to happen is that this nasolabial angle is pretty good. So we don't want to bring this back.
Yeah.
But we know that the mandible is going to grow. We know that. This mandible is going to grow. Not a big deal. So if the mandible is going to grow, no problem. Let him grow and allow the mandible to grow.
but
So what you want to do is, instead of bringing the incisor forward, in a case like this, you could say, okay, I want to maintain the upper incisor, so the lower incisor I bring forward. In order to bring forward the lower incisor is surgery or mandibular growth, right?
Yeah.
Or incisor inclination. I don't want him to incline the incisor because it's already inclined. So what I want to do is surgery or mandibular growth. I think here we can favor the mandibular growth. So you're right, the profile is here, but you have to know where to put the
so
lower
you do
incisor.
sagittal space
Hmm?
between incisors, and then you do, space between incisors.
What you do, you decide that in this case, let's say that you don't want to move the incisors because you expect the growth of the mandible.
But in this, if the molars will.
More are in
Okay,
class
the
2, so
same.
you have to do something in order
Yeah.
for more to go to class 1. Okay? So, in other words, you have space needed is plus 4. So you don't need any extraction, okay? Okay. At this point, you get to decide what is the position of the lower molar.
If we have +4 and we need it went to in +1, so maybe we can
Okay.
visualize.
So you have a 6mm class 2 here, and probably more or less the same because this picture is not taken well. Let's say that a 6mm of movement of the lower incisors. We need, right?
6mm.
So what you're gonna do is, in this case, you have always to realize that it's a growing patient. So, in other words, what you're gonna do, you say, okay, my lower molar are coming forward mesially 4 millimeters. Okay, check it out.
plus 4 or?
4.
And
You can-
9 millimeter copper.
You can go minus, it doesn't matter. It is not really important the sign. Okay? Now, what is the relationship between the molars?
6.
Huh?
The second plus 2.
Yes, minus 6.
Sorry, why is it right to have minus 4 and left 4?
So,
It's the same.
Minus 4 is
So
4.
we distalize upper.
At this point, you have to decide the movement of the upper molars. What is the movement of the upper molars? 2. Exactly. Okay? And everything should match. In other words, we have decided that we distalize the molar 2 millimeter. We decided that this incisor position is pretty good, and we expect some mandibular growth. Yep.
A question, but is it easier to calculate before the relationship between the molar and then I try to figure out the movement of the lower molar and or not?
I don't get it.
Adesso abbiamo fatto più o meno il più tasto.
This one is because you have space here, so you have to bring the lower molar forward. Since you have this type of relationship of the molar, if you bring the molar forward 4 millimeter, in order to get to class 1, the upper molar should go back 2 millimeter.
But the plus 4,
Comes out from here.
oh, okay, okay.
But what is minus 6 minus 6?
Is this, you need 6 millimeter to go in class 1.
Upper?
Yeah.
Both.
So, no, both. The relationship between upper and lower, it doesn't matter if the upper goes back or the lower goes forward. What you know is, you know that you need 6 millimeter, because this is a class 2 6 millimeter cluster.
How we calculate
It's
How do we calculate the class 2? If it's
Class-
to edge is 3
class-
millimeter, 2.5. If it's full class 2 is 5 to 6. For me, this is a little more towards 6.
Okay, so we have some values.
But then you can, okay,
Yes.
you can easily get a caliber and calculate this to this.
Okay, no, of course.
Easy.
comunque standard 6 millimeter.
But, and you end up that you're gonna be, you know, Pustio, you will end up that it's gonna be 5 to 6 millimeter.
Okay.
And then, if you want, we can calculate, but I'm pretty sure that it's gonna matter. And, but we don't have the models. So, it's of course we go a little more, you know, rule of thumb, you know. Is that clear? Okay. Non vi, okay.
But with all these diastemas, if we
And this is the end.
Mauro, with all these diastemas, if we do distalize 6 and what we have to retrude upper incisors, I guess.
What?
I mean, we have a lot of space at the upper, and no?
Ines has a question.
There are quite enough space on the upper, so there are diastemas, and if we distalize, wouldn't we retrude
Listen,
the upper
you're right.
incisors?
The only reference for the upper arch is the 6th. Why? Why I'm not interested on the canine, I'm not interested on the dias, I'm not interested on the incisors.
Mhm.
I tell you why. Because if I put the molar in the right position, and if I close all the spaces, and if I put the canine in the right position and I have the correct overjet, I should not have any space left if the Bolton is correct. Period. The only thing I should know is this is gonna be here. If this is gonna be here, everything should follow and in the right position. Should really set down in the right position. So the only thing we need for the upper arch is the first mooring, because everything comes by itself. Because we don't want space in the upper arch.
But maybe there was some combination of upper, so if you,
Yeah, sure. There's some combination.
so it will change a little bit profile if you.
I told you the mandible was growing, and in my opinion, the mandible grew. You see that? We can discuss the position of this incisor, but we're pretty sure we didn't change.
But in a low angle patient. Right? Roger?
You see? It was brought back. We wanted that. Okay? This is the way cases are prepared for the Anglo Society of Europe, with all the superimposition and the superimposition of the occlusogram to the partial superimposition of we superimpose on the key ridge here, we superimpose on the symphysis here, and we superimpose on the anterior part of the stella and the anterior cranial base on the partial superimposition. And you should see and should know that this is going down, okay?
But what is the previous plane? The previous plane, that
Lower.
plane from the foramen goccia?
This one?
No, the plane.
No, this one is the key ridge. This one. Not easy to find, believe me, not easy to find.
Cioè, è quello il piano di sovrapposizione?
Key ridge, go ahead.
In
This is Bjork superimposition.
yes, in 95, we made this superimposition of the
By hands.
without 3D.
By hands. You know how to do it? How did I tell you how to do it. So we did that. Then you take copies of the models, okay? Then you take the copy of the model, the midline parallel to the occlusal plane, and then you put the incisor at the level of the incisors. And you know, it is quite, you can see what's going on. Okay, that's it. And that is long term. And she's stable.
Coetanea con lei, che anno è? 80?
Si è uscito.
Pensate.
Non una vaga.
Un ex di Gio.
An XD.
Giovanni.
Ah. She's nice lady.
Very nice.
Da richiamare per i casi
Se
della stabilità.
mi lasci il numero la
Dovevo contattare.
She is a daughter of one of my very good friends, so forget it.
no, guarda che noi siamo dei signori. Comunque guarda che noi siamo dei signori, non so che idee hai te di noi.
Non lo credo. Go ahead.
I have a question about the last line, +2. From where we get it?
No, it's less.
-6 and
How do we get to
Minus,
plus 2?
it's minus.
6
Okay,
minus 4.
we have 4 millimeter. We have 4 millimeter. The lower molar has to go forward. We have a problem of 6 millimeter of class 2. In order to get to class 1, we need 2 millimeter back of the upper molar.
But you have to put
Okay,
the
you
sign
only
minus.
Ah, maybe it's
upper back, lower forward.
In this case, we have done that because we had spaces in the lower arch. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ines.
Thank you for explaining.
The next one, Ines.
I would love to do it.
Però la sangue non